To answer it is to really say to you guys as creators, remember that your content is not just about you creating content for your timeline or for your brand to repost it. We actually put a lot of performance spin behind these content pieces.
There's also that.
To make sure that we meet, because organically you're not going to drive a lead.
No, for sure.
I need to put paid media behind it for Meta to
you.
understand who that client's target audience is.
Yes.
For that lead to be generated for us.
Welcome back to Creator Conversations. It's your girl, Miss Rose, the influencer sister. Thank you so much for watching all the videos. Thank you for all the responses. Thank you for all the comments. It's been amazing to see. If you haven't followed us, follow us on TikTok and on Instagram at creator_conversations. Today we are back again with an expert episode, and I'm actually here with the expert that made me an expert, you know. So I am here with the one and only Janae now, what is it? The Salt, Influential, Together, both. Hey,
Infinity Influencer.
Right? So welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate
Absolutely.
it. Yeah. So Janae is just going to be here, and she's just going to talk through a couple of things that we all as content creators want to know, and even the experts would want to know, you know, for the people that want to go into influencer marketing, or for the people that want to be influencer marketing managers or anything like that. And also she's going to touch on a little bit of what creators really need to know, and some of the mistakes that they make, so that they don't end up, you know, on what we call a grey list. I've told them all about a grey list. They better know, and they better be careful.
It goes to red and black.
And black. Yeah. And then it just, we throw it away into like the Milky Way, and we never ever call you again. So let's just get right into it. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to comment and to share. And again, follow us on all socials. Ask all the questions that if we need to have a part 2 and 3, she will come back. She'll keep coming back. So should we get right into it?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So let's just start with this. Just because we've already said where you kind of work, let me pause. I think maybe move your hair from the mic. I'm scared maybe it might. Okay, yeah, perfect.
Good.
Cool. So let's get started. So you've told us a little bit of like where you're from and where you work. Maybe just give us like a highlight of like sort of like what you do and which group you're from.
Cool. So yeah, I think as mentioned, I work for in a group called the Infinity Influencer Group. We have got 2 businesses within this group. The one is called The Salt. So for those of you that are just you want to start creating content in hopes to start collaborating with brands, that's always the kind of platform you want to start off with and registering there. And then we also have a platform called Influential, which is your macro celeb platform. So there's the 2 platforms. In terms of that, my role is I'm the sales director over the 2 businesses. So under me, there is still a very big sales team of about 20 people. That is their role to get you guys to collaborate with brands. So yeah, essentially lots of people that are selling influencer marketing to get you guys work at the end of the day.
Okay, boss lady, she is out here. A team of 20. So I actually used to be one of those people under that team of 20. So like I did mention before, that I did say that I'm going to have the experts that made me into what I am today. So she's really the person that kind of taught me everything. So you've told us a little bit about your role and how you work with content creators and that. What makes a creator really stand out for a campaign when you're pitching them in a proposal?
Yeah. So I think most importantly is kind of how the creator matches to the brief. You've got to understand that every brand and every brief is different. So it's how you as the creator actually match that specific brand. If you're a mom of 2 kids and there's a brand looking for mom with kids of that age group, one, you're already ticking that box. But then it comes to the creative component thereof. Which platforms is the brand looking to be on? Which platforms are you on?
Yeah.
What type of content are they looking for? Stills, videos. What type of content do you create?
Right.
And ultimately, that brand objective. What is the brand hoping to achieve by using your content? And is your style of content going to actually, help them achieve that? But essentially, you've got to remember what the purpose of the content is. The purpose of the content is to reach the brand's target audience.
Okay.
And you, as well as the other creators that are part of this creative group, need to do a specific job for the client at the end of the day. And we'll get to that later in the podcast in terms of what do we do with that content. But your content has to influence that brand's target audience, essentially. So you've got to be you.
Yeah.
And
Thank you for saying that.
The way that you're going to stand out
Yes.
is, are you a match to the brand?
I love that. Thank you for saying that. That touches a lot with something that I preach religiously with, which is authenticity. I think what you've touched on actually reminds us as content creators and even experts is that it can't be a blanket thing. So I can't just do it just because of the content, that if I'm not a mom, I'm not a match, whether I've got the numbers or not. So authenticity that's the only thing that I heard from there. So I think that's what I take away from there. So
it's up to the sales team.
Right.
To match you to that brand at the end of the day, or your operational teams within the business. So,
but as you've mentioned, is that they'll match you if your content is aligned. So that speaks
profile,
right. So that speaks to a lot of people, because a lot of people will contact us and say, why aren't I getting campaigns, or why aren't you guys booking me? And I think it's good for them to kind of hear that there's a lot of factors that go into a campaign and that go into a pitch. Okay, so let's talk about what does influencer marketing success look like from an agency or a brand perspective?
Every campaign has different levels of criteria, you know. So I think the first measure of success for us is, has our client had a good experience?
Okay.
Because that means they're going to want to come back, and they might have repeat relationships with those influencers again. But ultimately, your campaign should have KPIs and beyond your number of content pieces and number of creators, what we're doing with that content. So the measurement of success for one brand could be leads. For another brand, it could be conversions of sales.
Right.
For another brand, it could be impressions, because they're launching and they're new and they just want people to know about them.
Right.
So I think there's so much. Again, it depends on what the brand is looking for.
Yeah.
So we can, for the creator though, in terms of what their success looks like, is how many reverts did I have on my content? Did I answer the client's brief in one take, making their life easier? Because remember, the job of the creator and the job of us as the influencer agency is to make the client look good at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And if we've made them look good, their brand sell, and not given them a hell of a lot more work, we've all done our job.
For sure. I think one thing that you've touched on in there is that it's a collective effort, right? And that's what I've been trying to kind of remind myself, and also remind creators as well, that, you know, the creator economy is so vast that there's so many different players in this field, and everybody needs to put in their role. So the brand will make their campaign successful by, you know, choosing the right agency, and then, you know, the agency will make the campaign successful by choosing the right influencers, and then the influencers will make the campaign successful by the right content and all of these things. So it really is a huge kind of field that everybody kind of needs to touch on. I like that. What do you think? Can you walk us through? You know, you touched on like the successful measurements, right? So you just mentioned the different types of, are there any other types, different types of, what am I trying to say? The measurements, because there's
those KPIs, So I think I can give you more context to them. So if you're an insurance brand wants leads. They want your content to have sold their product well enough that people are saying, hey, let me get a quote and compare my current insurance, and that's a lead. And it actually tracks further than that. It tracks to that lead conversion.
Yes.
Think of any app. It could be an app download campaign.
Right.
Think of not just the download, but then actually the usage of the app. So that's so a lot of campaigns will run an app download campaign, but then the repeat use of the app as well.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Like we said, conversion could be, if you've got an online store, you might want to run conversion.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just what we call impressions, and that's when your content is on the timeline of the target market of the brand in that instance.
Yeah.
So I think the crux to answer it is to really say to you guys as creators, remember that your content is not just about you creating content for your timeline or for your brand to repost it. We actually put a lot of performance spend behind these content pieces.
There's also that.
To make sure that we meet, because organically you're not going to drive a lead.
No, for sure.
I need to put paid media behind it. For Meta to
you.
understand who that client's target audience is.
Yes.
For that lead to be generated for our client.
Got you.
So that's the important part, is that we understand what our content is being used for, and that it's going to go so much further than just our own timelines.
Right. What you've touched on actually touches on the next question, because now we've spoken about if we're doing a lead generation campaign, that must also go into conversion. So now, how do you build long-term relationships with creators versus just the once-off things?
So I think the first thing is for that brand's campaign to actually be successful, for all of us to have done our job, because then the brand's going to want to spend again.
Right.
Secondly, I think for you as a creator to actually land the brief in a really solid and strong way, that your content piece is one of the top performing pieces, because then a brand is most likely to reuse you. But also, if you've given your salesperson, your operation person, your collaboration person within your performance media agency a good experience, they will put you forward for other work as well.
Right.
So that's what your success looks like, is you using every campaign of yours should be handled with the utmost professionalism, that it actually ensures your next campaign as well.
Yeah. I think time is flying, and I feel like we're just flying through these questions. I wish we had like a bunch of creators that were here that can ask these questions. But I think what you've touched on now is that for the long-term relationship that creators can build, a lot of what I'm hearing you also is them having a deeper understanding of either the platforms, the brands, or the agencies that they're working with, so that they really, really maximize into those relationships. What are some of the mistakes that they do make in terms of the content creators that kind of mess with the long-term relationships?
So I think the very first thing, always make sure that you get your solid content creation brief, and two, that you understand it. Before you go and shoot any content or incur any expenses on your own side. I'll give you an example. It's a foodie brand, and you just assume that you're going to go and create a recipe, and so you go and create your content, but you actually haven't received your brief. Now the client is saying, hold on, but I'm busy preparing for festive, so I needed your content to be festive driven. And you've just gone and created normal content. So in that sense, make sure that you always get your brief, and that you understand your brief. Make sure that everything is clear before you shoot. I think aesthetically, always take your brand into consideration. So if your bank's colours, if you're shooting for a bank that's green, don't go and wear red.
Or blue
when you're shooting. So be very aware of the brand
just
that you're shooting for. And the same goes for if you're shooting for an FMCG brand and you're shooting content in store. You're in, let's say, the milk aisle. All the other milk products are visible there. So you need to be able to be careful of what you're showing. Your surroundings.
Because then you're going to have like multiple brands.
But you've got one of those brands paying
for this.
And then you've also just got things like, take consideration of your lighting, your, mic use. You've got a lot of content creators that talk. And let's say you're in store now, you're talking about all this background noise. So mic use is very important. And I think also just, I think not staying true to themselves. And trying to do something different because they've received a brief and now they're on a campaign. Just remember why the brand's chosen you in the first place. So if you naturally don't do subtitles and voiceovers, and now you're going to go experiment with it, and you make a real stuff up out of it because it's not your normal style, well, your content's most likely going to get bombed, because that's not why they chose you in the first place.
For sure.
Yeah, I think that's just a few things. And then the last one to touch on is really just the misplacement of product as well. So if you are putting on, talking about a shaver, and you're trying to say, look, now I can go swim because my legs are nicely shaven, but you're showing me your shaver at the pool. We've got to be realistic.
You ain't gonna shave your legs at the pool.
At the pool. It's shaven where? It's shaven in your bathroom most likely. And that's where that product misplacement can really be not authentic.
For sure. When
Yeah.
people are trying to like do a makeup review, but they're like in the living room. You don't really do your makeup in the living room.
Maybe standing in your bathroom, some people do
Yeah,
it.
or in one of those rooms just
And let's be
near
honest,
a
even
mirror.
driving, some people will sit in their car. That would even be more...
Right. But I mean, don't put the car in motion.
No.
Because then your content is guaranteed to be rejected. Like, we're going to open the content and we're going to be like, nope. I know that sometimes I would send you like content before you even like get to like 10 seconds. You'll be like, Rosie, she's in the car and she's really driving. It's not going to work. And I'm like, oh gosh. So there's those little things. I think something that you touched on with making sure that, you know, their content style is authentic. How do you think, has it become easier to talk to brands regarding, you know, them assisting with like creative control? Because I find that, you know, if I'm not a person that always does voiceovers and then I submit my content and the content looks relatively okay and now the brand is like, oh, maybe she should just put a voiceover, and then now it's going to feel weird. How do we then find that balance with creative control between the brands and the content creators?
So I think the most important thing to realize is that you're not shooting this content for your own page. You're shooting it for the client's page.
Mm-hmm.
The client has a vision of what they're looking for.
Right.
And that's obviously more on your micro macro side. On your nano side, it's different because that's
Mm-hmm.
more influencing your communities and that's very much posting exactly what you would on an everyday basis. But when you're trying to up at a level and you're trying to create content for brand use, it's important that you have a look at what the brand has maybe previously done, the kind of people they've partnered with before. Have a look at for the style they're looking for you to achieve. Have a look at that brief. But just a tip for all content creators, if you are unsure of, you want to be like, this angle I want to take, but you don't want to go and shoot it, you can always submit what we call a concept approval. So you can go and share your concept, and it can be word for word, script written out. It can be saying what you're going to be doing.
Explain what you're going to be
wearing. The sequence
wearing.
of the video, explain what you're wearing. And obviously the guys that have a bit more creative direction and have experience in video, something like this would come more naturally to them. But in that sense, it gives you creative freedom that you can give them your thoughts, but that they can also give you feedback before you shoot any of this.
Right.
But also, let's say you're getting feedback you're not comfortable with. I can also tell you that I've had creators push back on that feedback and say, listen, this is not going to be authentic to me.
Right, like when I say that if you like do a voiceover and I'm like, I don't do voiceovers.
Yeah, so this is not authentic to me, but you know what, I'm happy to put maybe music over and subtitles or something like that. So you still want to make the client happy at the end of the day. So it should never be a dead stop no. If it is, it should come with a really strong motivation. Why? And that's how you kind of find that balance.
The balance. I really like that. I think what that also is teaching content creators is that there are really so many conversations that can be had, as opposed to when people see a type of content creator and try to replicate it and try to duplicate it. So then that again that will pull away from your authenticity or what you would normally do. And it's so important to really stay within your voice. So I really like what you've just said. Let's talk about, and you've mentioned a few now in terms of the quality of your content and all the things that you do. Some of the big mistakes that like creators kind of make when either dealing with their collaborators or when dealing with brands, because sometimes brands have training sessions, which is probably something you can touch on. What are some of the big mistakes that content creators make from start to finish in terms of that collaboration?
I think you can make mistakes before the collaboration even. So you've got, you know, or as a creator, you should probably try and avoid any kind of political conversation, association. Brands just naturally aren't going to want to touch you and get involved in things like that. You can definitely show too much skin. I
told y'all to stop taking off your clothes. I told y'all. Maybe now when the expert is saying it, you will hear me, because you guys are thinking followers. So skin, and then you thinking eventually once you've reached 10K, then you'll start slowing down on skin. But by then, it's all
the timeline's there. So unless you do one of those cleanups. But the problem with that is then your profile looks a little bit unauthentic, because you might have a couple thousand followers but 4 posts. And then you look a bit dodgy as well. So I think brands just are cautious. You've got to remember a lot of brands in our country are global brands too. So there's certain levels and standards that, you know, creators need to comply with as well.
Yeah.
And then I think the other thing as well that might get you blocked, like I said before, you even get to that collaboration stage, is just being unaccommodating. I think being unaccommodating to attend a training session, being unaccommodating to, let's say a client needs you to do something small extra, like go and shoot in store that you're buying the product, but then do it at home. And you're like, no, send me the product. You know, so just things like that would affect not only your current job, but any potential future work that the team can get you.
Yeah, because it's about relationships.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Because next time, if you help this client or this, you know, operation person out that's getting you the job,
you're on speed dial.
You're on speed dial for the next one.
You are on speed dial. Yeah.
So it's about building those connections with the people that can actually get you the bookings at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And being that person that they want to press pocket dial to phone you to actually be a part of a campaign. Yeah. And then when it comes during the collaboration, I think being slow on comms or on not communicating is just...
What did I say to you about not answering? Oh, I told you, call us back.
Yeah.
If you get a missed call, look, we're all busy.
Yeah.
I could call you, you could
just
call
say, can't talk now,
text you later, and then you need to go back.
Yeah.
You have to.
Because the problem is, you've got to understand that your agencies have a client that's waiting for feedback.
Yeah.
And if I can't manage that, then I look bad, then you look bad. And
because then it's like, are we even talking to a real person?
Yeah.
And you get replaced way too quickly.
Yeah.
And then it just seems as if maybe we, the collaborators or the brand, the agency, is looking like, you know, we're just kind of shifting away from you, we cancel people.
But sometimes we just can't wait.
We really can't, and those little things really do count.
So that's the delay in comms. And then I think when you take on a job, it's be on it, be on the communication, and if you commit to a submission deadline, stick to it.
Yeah.
We all know we're humans though, and you know, us dealing with clients, we'll always try and buy time where we need to, but always play open cards in the sense of, listen, this influencer's had a family emergency, they need another day or two. But without getting that communication from the influencer, we're blind, and everybody in this mix is just giving this client a bad experience. Yeah. Which, if you remember earlier in the conversation, we said that's what this is all about. It's making the brand and the client look good.
Right.
And giving them a good experience in doing so.
And what you're talking about really just expands on what you were saying about being accommodating, because we as the collaborators will definitely accommodate those areas like load shedding and cameras dying and car accidents and all of those things, but
which we've had multiple times.
Plenty.
Weather as well. Think about it. Weather is
if
like,
we're supposed to go outside.
You want to be an outside summer shoot, and then it's raining all weekend.
Yeah.
Like, but just communicate and say, listen.
If you're just like, look, it really rained over the weekend and you can't. But then I think also the accommodating also comes in that because you're building a relationship with the brand, then come up with a plan B. Say, how about I do like, if I'm like indoors, let me make a refreshing drink. Yeah. You know, as opposed to, or as a story or whatever it is, while we wait for the weather to clear. Exactly. That's where the accommodating comes in. So these are all the kind of elements that within a collaboration that can go wrong, but brands also think of these things, right? So, but communication is so key in that accommodating, especially when we're talking about that we're building relationships. The content creator is building a relationship with the collaborator with the salesman, and the sales lady with the brand, right? So all these relationships have to benefit everyone. So if the influencer, if I put you forward and I'm like, okay, Janae's ready, she's a mom, she's new, she's great, she's whatever, and then Janae doesn't call me back, immediately the salesperson's like, I can't do with Janae, let's find another person, because we're all trying to manage those relationships. I think
something else to be very clear with is that sometimes you as creators have got other deals lurking in the background that your collaborator is not aware of, because let's be honest, there's multiple PR agencies, influencer agencies that book creators these days. It's very important if we're approaching you on a skincare brand and you're already working with another skincare brand, say that up front, that no one's wasting any further time on this. Or as a matter of fact, be honest and say, listen, maybe you did it on TikTok and your collaborator's been looking at your Instagram and vetting your Instagram because that's the platform you want to use. say, listen, but I worked with this skincare brand 4 months ago. Just letting you know.
What does that mean?
Yeah.
So that you give the brand an opportunity, because there's things like cool off periods, which we'll cover in another episode with another expert. Because then I'll know that if you're in your 3rd month, can I wait? And can
I switch it on towards the end of my campaign?
Exactly. Or also, if we also need to give the brand a chance to say, I'm okay with them doing this, even though they've worked with that other guy.
We have to, again, everybody in the process looks bad. If you as the influencers not playing open cards and working with your collaborator to feed through to sales the right information for client to make an informed decision.
I also find that some of them are scared because then they don't want to lose the job. But
you're going to lose it once you've shot content anyway. So
and you've lost more because now there's a videographer and a photographer and an editor involved. So rather before. So keep that in mind, is that just because you have worked with X brand, it doesn't mean you'll never work with Y brand. Just give yourself time, and also being authentic is going to help you, because then you're going to know that you don't have to, like, remember I said that it doesn't always have to be branded content. You want to give yourself a break. You want to give yourself an opportunity to still put through your organic voice and your authentic voice in there.
I think it's an interesting one, because it's kind of like, what's a good ratio between branded and organic content on a timeline? And funny enough, I actually saw a survey once from a big FMCG client, and they said they were looking for about 60% of the content to be branded. And I thought, well, that's
the
high.
stuff that we kind of run away from. Because remember, if I send you a profile, I'm like, okay, let's put Rose forward. You're like, I don't know, hey, this is like, a lot. It's a lot of branded
stuff, yeah. So I think the crucial thing is, if you are getting a lot of branded content, make sure that you're making enough time for organic content as well.
Right.
Because, like Rose has just said, we kind of steer away from that.
Yeah.
But you do also get clients that want to book people. And I think it's more just from the sake of, I want to book somebody that's done collaborations. Yeah. Because then I know they know how to.
Then they know how to. Because I think maybe brands are also just tired of teaching people over and over, or kind of re-vetting all over again. So, but I think you said an important thing is that as a creator, find ways to strike the balance between your voice and also the branded you voice, because obviously we know those voices are different, but they mustn't be too different that it's just branded. Find a balance that even if they do want a lot of branded content, your voice is still in there. Okay, I like that a lot. I think it touched on a lot of things, but what I'm taking away from this is that content creation, when it comes to working with brands, is really big about relationships from start to finish, because you start off the relationship with your collaborator, ending off with even the audience, right? Because how you respond to the audience is also quite important. So those are the things that we look at, things like engagement rate.
Yeah.
Like we're gonna go deeper into a teaching.
But if your audience is asking you questions, are you going in? Are you getting involved? Are you just leaving the questions from your audience hanging?
Yeah, or you just liking the post.
Because then you're getting paid for the post, but you're not actually entrenched in the brand and the campaign and
And that's what really sometimes turns off audiences. So it's also good to do like a bit of an audit on your profile before you're like, hey Janae, I'm looking for influencer work. If you have any campaign, keep me in mind. Just already do the research, like I mentioned before, is that the questions that Janae is going to ask you to be like, I see your engagement rate is quite low. What's the reason for that? Because then it could be like, oh, I was hacked before and I'm still trying to pick it up. Or, sometimes I can't respond or I can't see or whatever it is. But there's those little elements that people kind of do. I think one thing that you also kind of touched on that I wanted to touch before if you haven't watched the other episode, pause this one, go back, watch it, then come back to this one. But one of the pet peeves that I mentioned was about being a diva. And I think that when I said it, like, that video
guy or girl, by the way.
Yeah. When I said it, I think people were like, because I think that sometimes just because you kind of starting to get to the brand, like the brand deals coming in, you start to be like, no, send me the content, or no.
But that's where the accommodating
That's where the accommodating comes in. I think I just wanted to mention it because I remembered it. Yeah.
It's about you're still not the brand. You are a brand. You're your own brand.
Yeah.
But you're not the brand paying for this collaboration.
For sure, yeah.
So make sure that, I think that accommodating should be the biggest thing that you guys think about as creators is, again, you don't want to be a pushover.
Yeah.
But to what extent are you willing to waiver for the brand. And I'll give you
Yeah.
an example again where this was the brief, you shot on brief, where the client seen your content and they're like, you know what, I really would have liked if they maybe added something like this in. Or an extra, or at the end have my logo come up, or whatever. And it's around, I'm saying, no, this is my content, take it or leave it. It's around seeing how you can help your client.
How you can.
Getting somebody within the team to help you.
Yeah, and I think there's lots of ways, and I think that thing that you said about like the pre-approval process is going to cut out a lot of things. And even if there isn't an approval process like that, rather suggest it to be like, so guys, I got the brief,
if you're
this
unsure,
is what I want to do.
If you want to take a slightly different creative angle and you see that you want to push the boundary on something, again, get approval on those things before you incur videographer costs. And
right.
Client will say yes or they'll say no, and then you'll have your answer.
And then you have your answer. Then at least you know how to go forward. And in fact, that will actually build you up for your upcoming campaigns. Yeah. I love that. Final question. Finish the sentence. A creator will never land a repeat deal if they
tarnish their reputation. And I think it goes to so many different levels.
Yeah.
It can be personal in the sense of that you've done something really bad personally. It can be simply just that you're difficult to work with and nobody actually has the energy to deal with that.
To kind of deal with you.
Or that you've had a really bad experience with a brand and you're going to go and create a video giving them a piece of your mind. But
because we've had that before.
Let me tell you, no one's going to touch you after that because they're so worried that you can do it to them as
Absolutely. And there's no problem. Voice your opinions. That's fine. I think this is sometimes the conversation that we were always trying to have with people to say, it's not about, we're not trying to restrict you from communicating with your people. If you are a vulgar person and you go in and you speak your mind, you're going to speak your mind. We're going to expedite your payment because you can't wait the 45 days that the terms and conditions said you need to wait, but we're gonna do that, and then after that, blacklist.
Yeah.
Not even grey list, not even red, black.
Delete your profile for you.
And you're gonna be there logging in like, why are they so quiet? You're gone. You're done. So no, I think that's so important, and it goes back to what you were saying again, is that to be careful with the kind of content that you interact with. I think I've mentioned it before that we're going to touch on the different types of tools that are available, especially within influencer marketing. The way those tools can listen to you, they can see your every move. Child, I told you guys about the followers. She's the one that told me. She's like, hey, did you know that like 60% of her following is like in Kazakhstan? What's going on there? So there's those type of tools that can actually then tell us, because then they'll tell us that, you know, you have a negative sentiment around your content. So there's all those different types of things. So I hope that just this little bit helps. This is just the first part of us inviting many other experts that are going to be here. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Thank you for making the time. And I hope that was valuable. That was valuable. It reminded me, girl, child, it reminded me of all the...
It
brought me... Okay, don't say the trenches. So it brought me back a lot. And so there's going to be a lot that we touch on. And as we grow and expand into the podcast, we're going to have a few more team members as well. Maybe we can have the platform team members as well that just kind of explain all of that. And don't forget to register on Refluential, and to register on The Salt, and to register on
Infinity Influencer.
And
for the newsletter, so that you can see what's going on.
Yep.
Both of those companies still have their own newsletters, but I think definitely register on The Salt. If, like we said, if you're a new creator, everyday person, just wanting to create everyday content on The Salt. And if you're more comfortable with your video, trying to grow your following, definitely on Webfluential. So yeah,
I love that. So what I'll do is I'll have all the links in the description, so you can just click on those different links and have a read about and subscribe to the newsletters. We touched on it briefly though about like attending the training, so it's going to be important to like register on a platform like The Salt, because then they walk you through, they hold your hand. We're going to talk about it as well, you know, holding your hand in terms of how to create branded content, what to do, the do's and the don'ts, and to just really dive deep into the stuff that we've talked about.
That's it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like this video. Don't forget to share it with a friend of yours, with whoever, so that we can all grow in this creator economy. Bye.